When you look ahead to this year, what offenses might be undervalued right now?
Well, Tyler, I'm actually going to start out with the Titans because I think there's a lot of guys that you can get late in your draft that could potentially pay off. It starts at the top with Will Levis. If you're in deeper leagues, you want to throw a dart at this guy. He didn't run much last year, but I think he has it in his arsenal. We saw it in his early years at the college level. But also, Tyjae Spears, Tony Pollard, you can get them in the 9th round. Calvin Ridley, I've drafted him a ton, Tyler, in the 6th round. DeAndre Hopkins in the 9th. Chico Okonkwo, the tight end, going undrafted. So a lot of options there. Another offense, how about the Seahawks, actually? Geno Smith probably played better than you realized last season. Ken Walker, the third, is an underrated running back. We've seen that when he's been healthy in this league. Also the wide receiver trio, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I've drafted all 3 of those guys at various times throughout the offseason, not to mention Noah Fant in a new offense should get his career back on track. So a lot of options from those 2 offenses.
I'm with you. Seahawks and Titans are 2 teams I think could have some pieces that lend to winning fantasy teams. By the way, both Geno Smith and Will Levis, 3,450.5 passing yards at ESPN BET, the identical passing yardage prop for those 2 QBs. And if they go over that, perhaps that helps win some fantasy leagues. All right, we know you've been a part of dozens, if not hundreds of mocks already this offseason. So after all of those drafts, what players do you find yourself drafting the most of?
Yeah, and you've been in those drafts as well. And you didn't snipe me very often, which is probably concerning for your outlook next season, Tyler. But one of the guys I've drafted a ton is Kyren Williams of the Rams. Everyone seems to be down on him right now. I know you're not down on him. You're, of course, a well-known Rams fan. But 21.3 fantasy points per game last season. Only he and Christian McCaffrey were above 18 last year. He was outstanding. So even with Blake Corum there, I'm not a huge fan of in terms of his collegiate efficiency. I think there's room for Kyren to have another huge season. You see a list of other guys I'm targeting right now. Joe Burrow, after the slow start last year, was QB4. He was actually QB4 in 2022 as well. He's going way too late in drafts. Evan Ingram, Tyler, last year, 3 players in the entire NFL had more catches than Evan Ingram. How is this guy going so late in drafts? Cortland Sutton, the number 1 in Denver. Brian Robinson, I still think he's the 1A in Washington, with Eckler kind of the change of pace back. So I like all those guys. I've been drafting them a ton.
Yeah, just did a draft where Joe Burrow fell to me, in best ball at least, all the way in the 9th round. And I'll draft Kyren Williams every opportunity you give me, 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th round if he's dipping that far. All right, let's go to wide receiver, where it's becoming the most prominent fantasy position. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, you see what they have done in years past. How can our fantasy managers identify league-winning wideouts?
You know I always bring math, Tyler, so I'm going to bring you some math right now. So get ready, put your thinking caps on, because I have some nuggets for you here. Check this out. Over the last decade in the NFL, only 33 rookie wide receivers finished top 35 in fantasy points. Of those 33, 30 were day 1 or 2 draft picks. So if you're looking for breakout rookies, guys that can get the job done this season, you want to be looking for guys drafted in the first 3 rounds. So some are obvious: Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Keon Coleman, even Ladd McConkey. But if you're looking for sleepers, look in that same range. Jalen McMillan in Tampa Bay, Jermaine Burton in Cincinnati. Don't forget about those guys as well. And here's another nugget for you. Since 2000, 76% of receivers who finished top 30 in fantasy points as a rookie repeated the next season. So think about the rookies who were good last year. Will they do it again? History says they probably will. Puka Nacua, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers just missed the cut at 31st. So those are all guys you can believe in drafts this season.
All right, those are the players we can project based on historical evidence to say that they're going to be probably good picks. What players on the other end of the spectrum, Mike Clay, might be the biggest fantasy landmines for our drafters to avoid in 2024?
Well, look, I would not say someone in his now late 30s. I wouldn't say someone in their late 20s is old, but when you're a running back, Tyler, sometimes being in your late 20s is concerning. So check this out. I have another stat for you. Only 8%, 6 out of 75 of top 15 scoring fantasy running backs over the past 5 years have been age 28 or older come week 1. Who were some names on that list this year? Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, James Conner, Austin Eckler, Zeke Elliott. How about Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards, Nick Chubb? All of those guys are somewhat of a red flag because history says they're unlikely to finish in the top 15. I'm still drafting a few of these guys, but you have to pick your spots. But definitely something that concerns me. Could we see a major turnover at the running back position this season?
Yeah, and CMC, Derrick Henry, the two names atop that list, expectations remain high for them despite their age this season. Both of them at ESPN BET have a rushing TD prop of 10.5. That's tied for the highest of any running back in the entire NFL. So despite those ages, at least the betting market's expecting those two to remain productive. Something you're always tracking is touchdown regression. So give us a couple of players you think might be destined for fewer trips to the end zone this season.
Yeah, so first of all, let me pat myself on the back a little bit here, right? Okay, because I've done 8 columns so far since I've been at ESPN on players who are going to score fewer touchdowns in next season. I've done 113 players in those articles. Tyler, 103 have scored fewer touchdowns in next season. That's a 91.2% hit rate. So we're going to try to keep that rolling this season. And frankly, the guys I'm going to feature here, kind of layups, right? Raheem Mostert had 21 touchdowns last season. So that's an easy one. I have him projected for 9, but also his teammate, Devon Achane, 11 touchdowns last year. I'm projecting 8. The actual touchdown total last year for Mostert compared to his expected total based on his usage, the 10th highest of all time, since I've been tracking this at least since 2011. So excuse me, it's about over the last decade and a half. The 9 players ahead of him on that list all scored fewer touchdowns the following season. Only 2 even got to 11 touchdowns. He's 32 years old. That touchdown total is probably going to plummet this season. And of course, your guy Achane, I know you love him in fantasy drafts this season, but 8.5 touchdown rate last season. He was 9th at running back in touchdowns, but 44th in touches. Only 4 carries inside the 5. I'm sorry, Tyler. I'm sorry to do this to you. He's going to score fewer touchdowns this season.
I'm not here for any Devon Achane slander, Mike Clay. I was about to salute you for what you did with your accuracy in the touchdown regression column, but shame on you for my boy Achane at least appearing in this year's. Mike Clay, can't wait to chat all fantasy football season long here on ESPN Bet Live. One of the most exclusive clubs in all of gaming got 2 new members today. Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill joining the 99 club with their player ratings in Madden 25. CMC led the NFL in rushing last season, while Hill led the league in receiving. Throughout the week over on Get Up, find out who else will be added to the 99 club. Noted video game aficionado Mike Clay back with us to talk some props for 2 of Madden's top players. We'll start with CMC, 99 at running back. His rushing prop is the highest at ESPN Bet, 1,150.5 rushing yards. What are you projecting for him on the ground this season?
Yeah, so I am at 12.19. So I'm usually pretty uncomfortable taking the over on season-long player props in the NFL, but I am kind of comfortable with this one because that projection from me is at 14 games. That's well above this line of 1,130.5 yards. So I'm still well above that line. Look, he's been easily over my projection in 2 of his last 3 full seasons. Last year, a lot of volume, 2nd in carries, 1st in rushing yards with 1459. Look, I'm projecting fewer games, carries, yards, and a lower yards per carry than last season, and still my projection is above this line. Also, not much investment in his backup, so it should still, again, be the McCaffrey show.
Yeah, health seems like the only real threat to him going under. As long as he can play those 14-plus games, the efficiency in that San Francisco offense is just so elite, even for an aging running back, as we discussed, like the 28-year-old Christian McCaffrey. Meanwhile, there's Tyreek Hill, and he's now a 99 at wide receiver for the Dolphins. His receiving prop even higher, 1,350.5 receiving yards at ESPN Bet. That's the highest of any wide receiver. Is your model saying that number is too high or too low?
Yeah, and he's entering his age 30 season, so health a concern for him as he gets older. When does he start to see that cliff? That's really the concern for anyone you're considering it over on from a player prop standpoint. So this makes me nervous, but Tyler, my projection is above this line at 1438. Look, he had 1799 last season and missed a game. In 2022, he played the whole season at 1710. That's well above my projection and this line. We know how efficient he is, 86th percentile or better in yards per route run in all 8 seasons. Top 3 at receiver in target share, targets, catches, and yards both seasons with Miami. Very similar to McCaffrey. I'm projecting fewer games, targets, yards per target, and it's still above this line. So it's hard for me to lean under. I don't like to get aggressive on overs on these season-long props because injuries are such a big deal, but the median projections here do show the overs.
I think the true test of how deserving these 2 men are for their 99 rating in Madden, the notoriously conservative projections of Mike Clay still have them going over these outrageous totals for 2024. Mike, we will catch you once you drop the sticks again and the games begin. Thanks for joining us here on ESPN Bet Live.